All right, welcome to the Buckeye Blitz. I am Tito, Jeff Thidoff. We are on Fantasy Sports powered by DSP Media. Follow me on Twitter at FitHappens, where you can find me. A lot to get into today. Look, I want to start off talking about the NBA draft. Brice Sensabaugh, the incredible freshman season for Ohio State this year in basketball, and departed after 1 year. When he came into Ohio State, no one really viewed him as a one and done, I don't believe. He was widely considered to be a guy who would be here multiple years. But he, as the season went on, he got better and better. He had an injury at the end of the season, which also probably affected his draft stock a little bit. I saw Brice Sensabaugh going anywhere in the NBA draft from, and there were varying times, when everyone announces if they're going to do it or not, there's mock drafts that come out. I saw him going end of lottery around out to around like the 20 to 25 range, maybe. A couple of the latest mock drafts, the last ones, had him going maybe early second round, but luckily first round's a big deal. You get that guaranteed contract then. If you're a first round pick, it's a much bigger deal. Even if you're where he was at, he got picked 28th by the Utah Jazz. If he had fallen out of the first round, even like just dropped 3 spots to 31, 32, would have been a huge disappointment and a detriment to him. So Brice Sensabaugh, drafted 28th overall by the Utah Jazz, probably a little lower than he thought he would go when he first declared for the draft. He's a scorer. That's what he can score at all three levels. And when he was at Ohio State, it was very effortless scoring. And that's not to say he doesn't have effort. What I'm saying is it was in the flow of the game. He did not force shots up for the most part. He had a couple of instances where he did, but by and large, very polished for a freshman. And had a great year. He's the kind of guy who would score 20, but it didn't feel like he took a lot of shots or any unnecessary shots to get to 20. So Brice Sensabaugh's NBA career starts up. Again, last year, remember Malachi Branham went in the first round, E.J. Liddell in the second. And this year you've got Brice Sensabaugh going 28 overall to the Utah Jazz. All right, let's move on to football because we are inside about 70 days, I believe, until right around the time for Ohio State takes on Indiana. And the Buckeyes picked up a 2025 quarterback, class 2025, Tavion St. Clair, is who was just here in town for some camps and looked really sharp, and the Buckeyes offered him. He is from Bell Fountain here in Ohio, and he chose Ohio State over, I believe it was like LSU, Tennessee, Penn State, Alabama, Michigan were all in on him. Class of 2025, number 10 overall player in the state of Ohio, in the class of 2025. So he last year as a sophomore. Now, again, keep in mind, this is a kid who is 2025. So he was just a sophomore last year, completed almost 71% of his passes, 2,453 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. Now, it's a verbal commit. So like I always say with everything, when it comes to the verbal commits, especially this far out, he could change his mind. Being an Ohio kid, though, I think it's unlikely he will, unless something drastically changes with the personnel Ohio State's bringing in, or if he sees a playing time situation that's not in his favor in the near future for Ohio State once he arrives. You could see something, I guess, at that point. But he's right now for the class of 2025. And if you remember that Ohio State tries to get like one stud quarterback, at least one in every single recruiting class. They had Kyle McCord, they've had obviously CJ Stroud was the 1 year as well. Lincoln Kleinholz is coming in the class of 2023. 2024 is Aaron Noland, and now 2025 is Tavion St. Clair out of Bell Fountain. 2026 could be Ashland's Nathan Bernhard. He is class 2026. He's going into a sophomore season. Hard to believe that this kid, though, he's a target of Ohio State, though. He's 6'5", 200 pounds going into a sophomore season. So we'll keep an eye on that and see what, if Ohio State, how heavy they'll pursue him. But I think he's one of the early guys they had their eye on for the class of 2026, which is so weird to say because the guys just finished his freshman year of high school. Dylan Raiola, and he was one of the guys Ohio State targeted. Remember Dylan Raiola, class of 2024, and he when he committed to Ohio State, and he was going to come in and he started recruiting everybody, he said, and was going to start recruiting hard for Ohio State and bring people to Ohio State and all this stuff, and then he decommitted, and now he is Georgia commit again, class of 2024. But the news about Dylan Raiola is that he is transferring high schools again. I think this will be his third high school in 3 years. Actually, his fourth high school, I believe, is what it's going to be. One of them he transferred to, but never played football for out in Arizona. But now he's going to Buford, Georgia, to play there And the high school team there is stacked. They've got a couple of 5-star kids on defense at Ohio State. One's an athlete slash safety. I believe the other's a defensive end that Ohio State is trying to recruit. But so it's a loaded team. And with Dylan Raiola, I don't have a problem with him going from Arizona, the state of Arizona, to the state of Georgia to play his final year of high school ball, to get closer to the Georgia program. It's an easier commute for the Georgia coaches to come check him out and stuff like that if he wants to go to do anything on campus there. So it's an easier commute, obviously. That makes perfect sense. But the red flag for me is the fact that this is his fourth high school. And the one high school he transferred to, he never even played a down for, never played football for. And he was facing a 5-game suspension. Arizona's got this interscholastic transfer rule, and they had a chance. They might have suspended him for 5 games. They could have done that in the upcoming season. But Dylan Raiola is headed over there now to play in the state of Georgia. CBSSports.com did something where they did one of their writers went through and did all the over-unders for Big Ten teams coming up in the upcoming college football season. I want to run through a few of these and give you some of my thoughts on it. But they did it alphabetically. Illinois, they had Illinois over under 6.5 wins. They liked him over 6.5. I think I also like Illinois over 6.5. I like where Brett Bielema's got this team going. He's one of those coaches who has the Big Ten personality. Big Ten, and I think when you get into certain cultures, certain environments, certain conferences, you need a coach that fits the mold there. Bielema had a lot of success at Wisconsin, nothing at Arkansas, now back in Illinois, and has them going in the right direction. So I do like Brett Bielema. I like Illinois over 6.5 on that one. Indiana's over under is 4 wins. I've got them under that. Indiana's going to be bad again this year. It's funny how good Indiana was under Michael Penix, who's now just a superstar out of Washington. He was good for Indiana as well. Remember the big plays he had against Penn State in that overtime victory, the dive for the pylon. But Penix long gone. Indiana's winning ways also long gone. I've got them under 4 wins. Iowa over under 7.5 wins. Iowa's under a lot of scrutiny this year because of their offense, because of Brian Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz's son, about where the offense is going. The over under for them is 7.5 wins. It's going to be close for me. They've got Utah State at Iowa State, Western Michigan in the non-conference. They do get Michigan State, Illinois, Purdue, all at home. I believe all 3 of those are home. And then their toughest ones, they avoid Ohio State, they avoid Michigan, they play at Penn State and at Wisconsin. I think I like them I think they'll get to 8 wins. So I think they'll be slightly over, but I don't love that one. Maryland's over under 7 wins. I'm going to go under on that one. I don't believe in Maryland at all this year. They do have to play at Michigan State, at Ohio State, at Nebraska, at Michigan. Michigan's over under 10.5 wins. Michigan's going to be over that. I fully expect, by the way, spoiler alert, I think Michigan and Ohio State are both going to be undefeated when they play on that Saturday after Thanksgiving. The odds makers have this as Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State each beating each other one time. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Michigan and Ohio State will both be sitting there at 11-0 when they play that game up in Ann Arbor, unfortunately, on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Michigan State over under 4.5 wins. God, I'm going to go under on this one. Mel Tucker, I can't believe the money they gave Mel Tucker to coach Michigan State, and they've lost their starting quarterback, lost their best receiver through the transfer portal. I think Michigan State goes under 4.5. Minnesota's over under 7 wins. This is the last year Minnesota's going to really benefit from playing in the Big Ten West, because starting next year, when the divisions go away, they can't. Schools in the Big Ten West won't be able to pad their victory totals by playing against the weak teams in the West. So Minnesota, though, over under 7.5 wins or 7 wins. I think that's going to be tough. I would probably take a push on that one. If I had to bet it, though, I would probably take the under. Nebraska's over under 6 wins. At Colorado, Northern Illinois, Louisiana Tech are their non-conference games. They also get Iowa, Maryland, Northwestern, Purdue. Again, out there in the West, it helps them out. I think they'll go over that 6 wins. I think they will end up doing that in Matt Rule's first year there. Northwest, 3.5 wins. They play UTEP, Howard, and Duke. At Duke, I think they'll win 2 of those. I got them under. I don't think they'll win a single Big Ten game. So I'm going to go under Northwestern on 3.5 wins. I think is where they'll fall. Ohio State, I've already talked about this. Their over-under is 10.5 wins. I think they'll be 11-0 when they take on Michigan in that big game on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. Penn State's over-under is 9.5 wins. I see losses to Ohio State and to Michigan. for Penn State. Other than that, it's not that tough of a schedule for them. The West Virginia game to start the season will be tough, but and I think they'll win that one. So I'll get them at 10-2. I'll take them over 9.5. Purdue's over under is 5 wins. I'll go over on this one. I think that Purdue, Fresno State, and Syracuse are 2 of their non-conference games. The other one is at Virginia Tech. That might not. That Virginia Tech's not that good. They're coming off a tough season. I think that Purdue could end up sealing that one. Give me over 5 on them. Rutgers over under 4 wins. My God, I'll take the under. I know Schiano had success there in his first tenure. They get Temple and Virginia Tech and Wagner. That's their 3. They play Northwestern. That could be their 4th, but I don't like anything else in there. So I would probably take a push on this. I wouldn't bet it preferably, but I think they'll be under if I had to bet one or the other. Wisconsin, over under 8.5 wins. This is a very low number. I love Wisconsin over 8.5 wins. They avoid Michigan. Their toughest game will be hosting Ohio State. They have to play Buffalo, at Washington State, at Georgia Southern, non-conference. Those are 3 wins for them. At Illinois, at Indiana, Iowa, 3 more. At Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern, Rutgers, at Purdue. Look, I think the Ohio State game will be the one blemish on Wisconsin's record. I think they soar past this 8.5 wins. So that's your Big Ten over-unders. And we'll keep an eye on where those numbers move throughout the offseason. One more thing I want to get to. Ole Miss. There's a quarterback named Austin Simmons, and might be Austin Simons. And he is from the state of Florida, class of 2025. He's a 4-star quarterback, so class of 25. So we got a couple years left for him, right? He committed to Florida, and then now is decommitted from Florida and is going to go to Ole Miss and reclassify in the class of 2023. So he's not reclassifying by 1 year like you see most of the time with college football players or basketball players. You might see them reclassify 1 year earlier. Sonny Styles did it for Ohio State this past season. He's going by 2 years. So he's going to go to college 2 years earlier than his class would be going to college. He's a homeschooled kid. He's got a 5.34 GPA, and he already has 15 college credits. So the kid's a genius, very smart kid, very bright kid, but going to college 2 years earlier, reclassifying the 2023 class. I don't expect him to play at all in 2023 for Ole Miss. He might get some garbage time in, I guess. He's big enough. Physically, he's there. I know it's going to be a tough transition for anybody going from high school 2 years early to college, but it'll be interesting to see. We'll watch that and see how that goes and follow that transition for him. But that's an interesting story, though. So that is it for today's Buckeye Blitz. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I want to come. My next Buckeye Blitz we're going to knock out here coming up is going to be I had a chance during a radio interview to sit down and talk to Jim Tressel with a colleague of mine. We talked to Jim Tressel. I want to tell you about that. I'm telling you, man, it's fascinating. But follow me on Twitter. I am at That Happens. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Buckeye Blitz, powered on Fantasy Sports, powered by DSP Media.